Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining today to my presentation on acne-free skin. And I'm really happy that you can all be here. And yeah, if you have any questions throughout, you can put them in the chat and we might get some time at the end for those. Otherwise, yeah, really happy that you can follow along to my presentation. So I will start sharing my screen now. And yeah, start the presentation. Okay. So shared my screen now, so hopefully everyone can see this okay. So this webinar is called Steps to Acne-Free Skin, a Naturopathic Perspective. And so this is in collaboration with APMS for Natural Medicine Week. And I have chosen this topic because acne has been a massive part of my life. And it is a really difficult time for anyone that has experienced acne. They would know that it really takes up your mind space, your life, and all you really want is to find a solution. So I've now dedicated my work and my life to helping men and women clear their skin with natural solutions and really investigating the root cause. Alrighty, so a little bit about me. So I'm a clinical naturopath and I have my own online clinic called Zoe Rosa Wellness. And this is where I treat clients around the world, so in Australia, the UK, and the EU. And yes, like I said, my focus is on acne of all ages and genders. It's actually interesting now. There's a lot more adult acne than there used to be in the past. So this is generally to do with like our lifestyle at the moment as well. But I am seeing more prevalence in an older population now rather than just teen acne. So today I'm going to share with you a little bit about my story with acne. And so when I was writing this presentation, I realized it's important for me to share this because this is a big part of my life and a big part of why I do this work. And it also reflects on what I see in my clients do. A lot of clients that come to me have already been experiencing acne for 10 years and already trying with the medical model. And this is something that I also went through. So in my story, you will see parallels in what I will see with my clients and also an understanding of how the naturopathic model then works to treat acne after people have gone down that route. Okay, so this is a timeline of when I first started to get acne, and timeline is the number one thing I do with my clients. I find it really an important step to understanding and investigating why they have acne. And I always start from the very beginning, but here we'll just start more with my acne journey and when it started, and more focused on the treatments that I tried. So my acne began when I was around in year 6 in 2009, and it was just a couple of pimples. And this is very common for teenage acne to just have a couple, you know. And I was not very happy about it. And the next year, my parents sent me to a GP. This is the standard, you know, go to a GP and they will then prescribe you generally like a topical, like benzoyl peroxide, and generally antibiotics. So antibiotics used to work quite effectively for acne, but it's become quite resistant now to it. So for me, I saw nothing, and it was a shame because I was really hopeful at this age to finally get some clear skin. And if you told me the journey that I had ahead of me, I don't think I would have been able to handle it. But this is when it all began. So then what happens is generally when someone sees a GP, they do the standard things, then they get prescribed, they get sent to a dermatologist, usually long waiting lists. It's quite intimidating to see a dermatologist when you're only 13. And she went in with the steroids, Roaccutane, isotretinoin, but I'll be referring to it as Roaccutane in this because it's most commonly known as that. And then antibiotics, more doxycycline, which is also the most commonly prescribed antibiotic for acne. And this was really full on at age 13 to be on all of these things. I was just starting high school and I was feeling hopeful, but also quite overwhelmed with the amount of medication that I had to take. And you'll start to see a pattern here of being on the medications, and then once you finish, it's generally a 6-month course. Then it generally the acne starts to come back around 5 to 6 months after you finish the medication. So at age 15, I went back on Roaccutane, more doxycycline, in hopes that this time it would work. And I also wanted to take note here that I had to move schools due to bullying. And this is something I also like to know about my clients, especially when they've had teen acne, how it affected their life and the things that they've been through, because acne can really affect teenagers' mental health and anyone's mental health, really. And also Roaccutane has been linked to mental health issues. But, at school, I would want to cover my acne with makeup, but other teenagers didn't have really that acne, like at least in my school. So they didn't understand why I would wear it. The teachers would give me a hard time. The students would give me a hard time. I even had to write a letter explaining why. And, acne is a skin disease and it's super hard when it's on your face. Makeup doesn't even really cover it properly. So luckily, the school I moved to was a lot more accepting, but it made a big impact on my mental health having my skin issues. And unfortunately, the acne came back again in my final year of high school, which was not great timing. HSC was super stressful, then schoolies, and I'm on Roaccutane for a third time during this. But before they prescribed me a third round of Roaccutane, I was quite resistant to having to go onto it again. And this time I was like, surely, like, this is not working, but why? It's still putting me on it. It's really hard to speak up to yourself to a dermatologist. So she did put me on the oral contraceptive pill as, a first option this third time round. But it actually made my skin a lot worse. And this can happen for people. It can definitely help clear skin temporarily for people, but in my case, it made my skin worse. And then more Accutane. And so I would like to hear from you guys. What do you think happened next? If you could write 2016, age 18, do you think my skin finally stayed clear, or do you think it came back? What do you think the next step of my timeline is? Someone saying came back. Unfortunately, you guys are on the right path here. Okay, so my acne came back. And I like this quote here. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And I almost wanted to say this to my dermatologist at this point, because she was happy to put me on a fourth round of Roaccutane. And the whole time I knew, even from when I was 13, that my diet was related. I would try and talk to her about it, be like, I think this like dairy and Cadbury chocolate I'm having every day is not great. And she's like, got nothing to do with it. Don't worry. Like, don't even, and it was, the way she spoke to me was quite, like belittling, like as though like my intuition was not correct at all. And now we know there's definitely links there. So this is a really common story. And like I said, most people come to me and they're really exhausted at this point. And I need to encourage people that the natural healing journey is the way, but it is also it can be a long journey for some people too, if you have been struggling with skin issues and suppressing it for so long. So now I want to talk a little bit about the natural healing journey. And this is when it all began. So 18 years old, 2016, after finishing my third round of Roaccutane, 5 months later, this is the first photo I took of my skin, and I was like, okay, it's coming back, surely not. And I decided enough was enough. And this story is common in most naturopaths that have gone to study it. You know, it's like you become your own doctor at some point, and anyone that goes on a natural healing journey, it's like they take their health into their own hands. And this is the point where I was like, okay. So I started really, you know, researching, changing my diet. And I wasn't looking back. I was committed. And then 2017, you can see it starts to spread to my forehead, and we'll note this down because I'm going to be talking about the different types of acne. You know, people can be experiencing multiple at once, or it can evolve and change. During this time as well, I was starting to get, I'm in India in this photo, I'm starting to get deep on meditation, unlearning everything from my teen years. A lot of this kind of goes hand in hand in a natural healing journey of unlearning, unstripping the beliefs, and starting to support the nervous system. Because acne is such an emotional toll, it's important to have these skills and these tools as well to support the nervous system, and strengthen the mind. So after this, I'm going to show you when it kind of got to the peak. So these photos are, you know, I'm out of the shower, I'm in bed. I never expected to be showing anyone these things, these photos. But to me, it's important to highlight, you know, the story and acne and how extreme it can get in some cases. So it doesn't have to get to this point. Say back in 2009, you know, I cleaned up my diet. Someone really looked at me holistically when I had those two pimples. It would have never had to get to this point. But this is what happens after over 10 years of suppression of acne through different medications. Sometimes it does have to come to this point of a purging and relief. And I only actually discovered what a naturopath was about 2 years into my natural healing journey. I was by chance on YouTube watching someone how they cleared their skin, and she spoke about a naturopath. I got to see the same one, and that was the best thing, the best discovery. I mean, I ended up changing my degree to study it at that time as well. And yeah, so this was the peak. And at this point, like I kind of accepted it. But there is a lot of post-pigmentation scarring here as well. Post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation is really common with acne, and it can also take a while to heal. But this is the point, you know, when people really want to give up. They're like, all right, this is not working. I'm going back on Roaccutane. Like they just want to like throw it all away. But I think because of my experience, I can hold people through this time of like really questioning whether this is the right path. Because there is a resolution. 2020, finally, you know, clear skin. And, you know, after years of consistency, not giving up and loving myself through it all, you know, this is the most important part. Acne teaches you unconditional self-love. And this was the first photo I took when I had clear skin, like real clear skin, not Roaccutane clear skin. And I almost didn't recognize myself. Some things that I was doing at the time, you know, cut out dairy, no junk food, working with a naturopath, high plant focused diet and diversity, seafood. I also want to talk about lifestyle. You know, I began more of an active lifestyle with surfing, and through this lifestyle, I found really amazing friendships as well. So this really important part is the people you're surrounding yourself with. Do they have healthy habits? Are they good for your mental health? You know, and this can really help you on your journey to clearing your skin. Also, toxic family member left the household. You know, this is a big thing, especially for teenagers when they're living with someone that can have this toxic energy. It can be hard to feel safe in your nervous system to heal. So it's always good to know like the different relationships, and it can make a big difference when it comes to the healing journey. And then a lot of inner work to heal from the teenage years of bullying. So this is something that I'm literally still working on. You know, acne scars run deeper than surface level. They can affect your self-esteem, so many different things, aspects. But ultimately, it's the biggest journey that you can go on. And yeah, so I was pretty happy with this. And it felt so rewarding after all, you know, the changes, and I was in such a better place. So I'm going to show you a little bit about vitality and vital force. Now, this is a big component of naturopathic medicine. I see this often with my clients. On the left here, you know, that life force is, that vitality is lacking. It's pale, malnourished. On this photo, I'm on Roaccutane. So you can see it's like kind of like a translucency to the skin. This is what the medication does. It really thins it out. And yeah, it was like just so many things: underweight, bad mental health, anxiety, OCD, severe constipation. No one ever asked me about my gut health. It's like I was doing like twice a week, pebbles. And also obsessed with how I look. So this is a big part of acne too. You're taking photos every day, you're trying to find the right makeup. So it can become like this obsession with the looks too. And it was interesting because when I started the natural journey, I started really increasing my fiber intake, my plants. And I remember having my first bowel movement that was good. And I was like, wow, that I've never experienced that. And then I looked in the mirror and I saw this glow coming to my skin. And I'll never forget that. I was like putting the two and two together and I was like, can that really like be related? Like all of a sudden I have this vitality. Now my bowels are moving. And since then I've had this glow in my skin. And this is what I want to see with clients, the vitality, the glow coming back, and then everything starts to balance out. Okay, so we're going to touch a little bit about the types of acne, and this is important to really know what kind of acne you're working with and the acne that you're experiencing. So malassezia folliculitis, this is caused by a yeast overgrowth in the hair follicles. It's technically not really a type of acne. People call it fungal acne, but it's important to rule out because it's quite easily treated like topically with antifungals, but sometimes there is a deeper overgrowth of candida or yeast issues. And it normally happens from lifestyle factors, if you've been in really humid conditions, poor hygiene, sporty, these things, or dirty makeup brushes. It can also be itchy, which acne vulgaris is generally not. So it's good to make sure that this isn't the type of acne that you have, and if it is, then addressing it in the right way. And then this is the most common, so acne vulgaris, bacterial and cystic acne. Cystic acne can be super painful, it's the type that I had, and super inflammatory. And this structurally is because of the C acnes present in the skin, and it develops due to the clogged hair follicle filled with excess oil and dead skin cells. And the C acnes thrive in this environment and cause further inflammation. And there's different gradings to this as well. I always like to track my clients with photos, because photos can be good to really see the direction you're going, because people often forget how far they've come as well. So photos can be great to know that we're moving in the right direction and see how far you've come. And then this is a hormonal presentation of acne. So hormonal acne is not as common as you think. Some people do really have true hormonal acne, but generally it's usually more diet and gut related. But in people with, hormonal acne, you're going to see it on the jawline, around the mouth as well. And, PCOS cases, polycystic ovarian syndrome, they're going to have the excess hair growth and, high androgens. Estrogen excess is also quite common, especially post-pill, but you can also have an underproduction of estrogen, and you'll generally see this in the cycle as well. So always investigating the cycle, understanding your cycle, and whether you have amenorrhea or heavy periods. It's important to support the female hormones when we're treating acne. So I have another question for you guys. So do you think acne is prevalent worldwide? So if you went and you studied different populations, do you think that you would be able to find acne or a pimple in every part of the world? I'd love to hear from you guys in the chat. Yes, okay, I'm getting some yes. Or is that true? Yeah. You think you'd be able to find acne in every population? No. Okay, so we've got some mixed answers here. So the answer is acne is really a disease of Western civilization, and there has been found some different areas of the world. No acne has been found. They've been studied, ongoing studies, and they found no pimples and no pustules. And this really shows us that it is more related to environmental factors. So in this study, the Kitavan Islanders of Papua New Guinea and the Ate hunter-gatherers of Paraguay were studied. And it's interesting to look at the kind of lifestyle they were living. So the Kitavian people ate a lot of tubers, fruit, fish, coconut, a quite high carbohydrate diet, but with low glycemic index vegetables and fruits, and low fat. And then the Ate people were hunter-gatherers, but they ate mostly wild plants, so 70% of their diet, and then 17% wild meat. And they had a little bit of Western food in their diet, but no pimples were found in these populations, which is really interesting. And so in the conclusion of the study, they really said it cannot be solely attributed to genetic differences, but likely differing environmental factors. So I really believe this, and I think, you know, if you think about the environment of these people living amongst nature with diversity, with harmony, this is a massive part of this, why we're seeing acne in this Western culture where we are a lot more separated from nature and from the food that we should be eating. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about the common thread, which is gut health. And with my acne clients, I do a gut test with almost everyone. And this gives me answers to their skin. And it helps me create a more individualized protocol for them and to really understand what's going on a deeper level. So we'll discuss some markers that commonly come up. So these are GIT functional markers, and this can tell us a lot of different things. So in this case, the client had high calprotectin. So this is the most studied marker of gastrointestinal inflammation. And this means that there is a lot of inflammation happening. It's actually can be good to get this marker rechecked to make sure that it is going down, because sometimes it can be an indicator of inflammatory bowel disease, or some sort of infection or dysbiosis or medication. So we want to support this with an anti-inflammatory diet and anti-inflammatory supplements, thinking like turmeric, marshmallow root, aloe, antioxidants, to reduce this marker. And then we have secretory IgA. So this is often quite low as well in clients. And this is the first line of defense. So in response to antigens and to pathogens in the GI. And we really want this strong immune system of the gut to be supporting us when it comes to treating acne. And this is generally low because I see a lot of stressed clients, a lot of people that are rushing their food, rushing from A to B, and this then dampens this immune system of the gut. So lifestyle factors are really important when it comes to supporting secretory IgA, but also things like bovine colostrum with the immunoglobulin A, and it can help support this marker and strengthen it. And then beta-glucuronidase is also something that I see quite high in acne clients, and this can really give us an indication on the liver health and phase 2 liver detoxification in particular, especially if we're seeing a lot of estrogen excess, and you'll see it in the acne too, around the mouth. This is important to treat. First, you want to really make sure the bowels are moving every day. And then you can work on the liver with a really easy thing you can add to your diet is organic carrot with the skin on it. And this has calcium deglucarate in it. This is a compound which will help to with this marker of beta-glucuronidase as well. And then some supplements additionally can help, like NAC and supporting the liver with different liver herbs. But yeah, this is quite common that I see. Alrighty, and then this client, she had high zonulin. This really shows us that the gut lining is impaired, so intestinal impermeability, or you might hear the word leaky gut. So we want them to be tight junctions. And generally, this can be from a few things like gluten, but also antibiotic use, stress, lifestyle. And so when we're healing the gut in this case, we want to ideally remove gluten, at least while we're healing it, unless they're intolerant, and use like those gut healing nutrients. We're talking like L-glutamine, aloe, zinc, really repairing the gut lining. Okay, and then we have steatocrit. This is often I see high too. So this is, indicating we're not absorbing those fat-soluble vitamins that are really important for skin, A, D, E, and K. And there's something happening in terms of the bile production, and it's not breaking down and assimilating and absorbing the fat. So supporting with like bitter herbs, and supporting the liver here as well, glycine, taurine, to help the steatocrit marker go down so that we're absorbing those really important fat-soluble vitamins. And you'll generally see that the stool, or when you speak to the client, the stool is generally like more fatty, sticking to the sides of the wall of the bowl. And yeah, the fat is not being absorbed properly. Okay, so the bacterial gut flora. So like when we imagine those, indigenous tribes that we saw in that study earlier, it's like they're living in like these more rainforest environments. And we want our gut to represent this as well. We want diversity. We want lots of different strains at healthy levels. And so this is probably the most common thing I see with every gut test that I do. And this is low beneficial bacteria. And this bacteria is essential for healthy intestinal and immune function, which then will help the acne and the skin. Okay, so it's all connected. And I generally, do high dose probiotics here, also depending exactly on the strain. And if there's one thing you take away from this, it is fiber. Okay, we need fiber. With acne clients, you can go as high as 35 grams a day. We really want this fiber and diversity, 30 plants a week. We really want to be focusing on this. It's probably one of the most important things, and repopulating the gut microbiome. And so it's not just the probiotics you need, though. We also need to be feeding these guys. They're not going to stay in there unless we're feeding it with the right food. So diet is a good place to do that. Focusing especially on prebiotic fibers. So things like onion, garlic, resistant starch. So things like cooked and cooled potato or rice, drusen artichoke, leek. There's lots of ones. So I normally send like a list to my clients, and sometimes I'll give an additional powder of prebiotics. So that feeds them. And then the beautiful thing is, once we have diversity of these different strains, it's going to create postbiotics, which then are short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, that will heal the gut lining. So it's a beautiful symbiotic relationship between the different pro and postbiotics, that we want this harmony and this innate intelligence that the gut has to heal itself, and in turn heal the presentation of acne. I want to hone in on two keystone species, which I often see low. This client, she was on antibiotics for her skin for like 4 years, like just completely left on it. In the UK, with some of my clients, I see it quite a lot, that these two are low, and that they're also left on antibiotics for way too long. So Akkermansia. So this one is a little keystone species that loves this protein called mucin. And mucin is found in the mucosal layer above the intestinal wall. And it feeds off this, and it then, as it's feeding off it, it strengthens the mucosal layer and strengthens the epithelial cells of the intestinal lining. And then But the thing is, Akkermansia is not found in food. So we need to be feeding it with the right things. And the best way to feed Akkermansia is with polyphenols. So think cranberry, pomegranate, grape, berries. You know, these colorful pigmented foods will feed Akkermansia. And so it's one of the most important ones to focus on. It can also be too high in clients. If it's really high, it means there's a lot in inflammation going on, and generally they'll also have mucus in the stool. So we want it to be somewhere in the middle, not too low, not too high. So DL means below detectable limit. And then fake Helicobacterium is also another keystone species, and it's a top butyrate producing bacteria. So this is like the short chain fatty acids I was talking about before, that's going to heal the gut lining. And this one also loves polyphenols to feed off, and prebiotic bacteria, prebiotic fibers. So definitely always honing in on these two. All right, and we have opportunistic bacterial overgrowth. And so the ones I see most commonly are like Streptococcus species and Staphylococcus aureus. But it can really differ with every client. And there's two schools of thought. You know, some people love to go in and treat it, and some people don't. I always look at the whole client, looking how is their good bacteria in the gut, like we were just looking at before. How is their vitality? Are they in a position to be actually going in with antimicrobials? And you can also sometimes choose selective antimicrobials like green tea or pomegranate, rather than going in and really eradicating them all. But yeah, every client is slightly different with this presentation here, but generally there are at least a few overgrowing. And the same thing is with parasites. Some people love to treat blastocystis simplex, and some people don't. I like the same thing with the bacterial overgrowth. I look at the whole client, whether they're in a position to do a parasite cleanse, and always making sure the bowels are moving before you go in and do one, and always doing it with a practitioner, because it's a step process. And like some herbs like wormwood and black walnut, you know, need to be tailored properly. So it depends on the client. If they had something like Giardia, I would definitely treat that. I've had that before, and it was like the roughest time of my life. So some parasites, you know, can cause so many symptoms, and then they definitely need to be treated. But we're seeing the microbiome as a rainforest. Lots of different species can thrive together if they are in healthy balance. Okay. So we'll quickly touch on blood tests. So this is another easy thing that you can do if you're experiencing acne. Speak to your naturopath about writing you a referral letter. Normally I write my clients one, explaining the reasons why. You know, to get it covered on Medicare, you do need to explain why you are testing certain things. But you can also do private testing if you can't get everything done. These are just some general ones, and it will depend on the case of if we want to go and investigate things a bit further. But yeah, things I see most commonly are like anemia, whether that's low iron, B12. With B12, you want to be careful with acne, because high doses can cause breakouts. And yeah, anemia is super common, especially in menstruating women. Making sure the gut is healthy, because, you know, it can be absorbed through the gut as well. But definitely treating an iron deficiency is an important part of supporting the skin. Liver function test. I will generally know if my client drinks a lot of alcohol from both liver function tests and their inflammatory markers, and also in their gut test. And alcohol is one of these things that if you're drinking a lot of it, like clearing your skin is not going to happen. It really, as soon as my clients stop, you know, binge drinking or drinking a lot of wine, you'll see like the skin will start to improve. So supporting the liver is big in this. Cholesterol studies can be good to get done. Some women also have too low cholesterol. Cholesterol, you know, is the foundation of our sex hormones, so we want to have healthy cholesterol production. You can also test your hormones as well to understand if there's any imbalances there. Thyroid function, you know, 1 in 4 women are having thyroid issues now. And I feel like there's not enough education in this space. Like really, like thyroid is always important to check with clients. CRP, ESR, inflammatory markers are good to get an idea if there's any other inflammation happening. And then fasting insulin, HbA1c, there's blood sugar is a massive part of acne. It's a whole nother webinar. But making sure, there's no blood sugar issues, pre-diabetes, or like PCOS happening too. And then urinary iodine can be good. It's an essential mineral for the thyroid. So getting an idea of the iodine levels too. So I didn't have enough space to write all the naturopathic ranges against the medical model ranges. But if you want a handout on that, I will send it out my mailing list this week or maybe next week. You can join my mailing list via my website and I can send that to you. It's easier than sending it to everyone individually. And it can be good to know the ranges because as naturopaths, we have more specific ranges based off a healthier population to make sure that clients are really thriving and not just okay. Okay, and then we'll touch on endocrine disrupting chemicals. So women put on around 170 chemicals a day, and this is the classic photo, like spraying the perfume like right on the lymph node there. Lots of chemicals, and it's not about fear mongering or like it can be super overwhelming and like there's so many things already to do as an acne client. So I really just want to educating is the key. And then we slowly integrate. Like you saw in my acne journey, it's not overnight. This is a slow change of the lifestyle things and the things that we have in our household. You don't need to go and chuck absolutely everything out that you own. But it's just an awareness and education. Then we have power to make the decision and the choices there. Okay, so pesticides, opting for organic where you can. I know it can be difficult. When I first went on my journey, I found like a local farmers market, got to know the farmers, even if it's just spray-free, just starting to change things up there. Phthalates, so things like plastic, really avoiding plastic where possible, especially like glad wrap, and heating foods in plastic is not great. It's also a stabilizer in fragrance. So perfumes they're banned in fertility clinics. They're not great. If you can really find a natural pure perfume brand or avoid wearing too much fragrance, is a good step into supporting your hormones and your fertility and all of these different aspects of our health. Parabens used as a preservative in foods and personal care products. So I generally, when I, go shopping for these kind of cosmetic things, I go to a health food store. Good place to talk to the owner or the lady or male working there and getting an idea of the different brands they have and ones that can be paraben free. Same with heavy metals, just really opting for brands that are really conscious about the ingredients they're using, and you want to be able to understand the things that are on the label generally when it comes to cosmetics. And there's some really great natural brands out there now. PFAs, this is like in the resistant, make like the pans that make it resistant to certain things. And then BPA as well. So BPA is a bit better now. It used to be in a lot more things, but it can sometimes still be in canned foods and receipts that you receive. And then oxybenzone in SPF products is being discovered to be an endocrine disruptor. So endocrine disruptor basically just means that it's mimicking your hormones and creating imbalance or confusion of your hormones when it's not actually the natural hormones. It's like coming from an outside source. And I would really recommend looking at the Environmental Working Group website. They have some really good education there. They have a whole thing on sunscreen, tap water. You can really start to learn more about this area on that website. And yeah, just some simple things you can start with, like don't buy flame retardant or water resistant coating. dust frequently. So, these chemicals can settle in dust, so we don't want to have like a really dusty house. Steer clear of plastic wrap and canned foods and avoid non-stick cookware. So, once you're starting to buy some new cookware, opting for cast iron or stainless steel is a great option. Okay. And we're just going to end quickly on the topical side of things and just talking about skin barrier health. This is a really important aspect of treating acne as well. A lot of women and some men, but more women because of the cosmetic industry, really just damage the skin barrier with so many different actives, chemical peels, going to the facialist and just completely stripping the skin barrier. So we really want to make sure that this is healthy and strong as part of treating acne. So I would love to know, on this pH scale, where do you think the ideal skin pH is? This is a really important part of treating the skin. In the chat, do we have any guesses on the number? I'm saying neutral. Someone says 7. Okay. Any other guesses here? Do we think alkaline, like 12, or do we think more acidic? Or people are sticking in the middle? 5. Okay, so we generally want it. Oh, did I hear something? We generally want it to be around 4.5, so more acidic. And this is because of the acid mantle. Someone else wrote something in the chat. Yeah, okay, yeah. So it's also common with eczema patients as well. We want this more acidic skin barrier and acid mantle. And bacteria, staph, different yeast can't thrive in an acidic environment. They thrive more in the alkaline, even at 7. So we want to make it more acidic. And the acid mantle helps prevent moisture loss and helps maintain the skin barrier. So ways to make your skin more acidic is with a rosemary hydrosol is a great choice. So hydrosol is the water component of essential oil distillation. So it's a lot more gentle than essential oils. And it helps acidify the skin barrier and the acid mantle. So you generally spray it after, cleansing the face. You can also use apple cider vinegar 50-50 with water, but some people don't like the smell of this so much. But it's important to, acidify the acid mantle as well. And really just avoiding any like harsh active chemical peels, exfoliants, and really giving the skin a chance to heal itself. And opting for more natural skincare is great when it comes to the topicals. Okay, so I think that was everything on that. And we've come to an end. So thank you all so much for listening. I hope you took something away from it. If you have like one major takeaway, I would love to hear it in the chat. If there's something that you didn't know before, or something that clicked, or something interesting, let me know. For attending this webinar, and also for those that are watching the replay, you can use the code ATMS15 when you book in for an initial consultation for 15% off. And also you'll get 15% off your first protocol, supplements or herbal medicine. I just really want to reach and support as many people as possible with their skin. And thank you so much all for listening. So if you have any questions as well, this is a chance to ask me any. And I'm also always active on Instagram as well if you want to connect on there. Thank you all for the thank yous. I can stop sharing my screen too. Thanks, Stephanie. Good to see you here. Anyone have any niggling questions about acne or about treating skin, or if you're experiencing acne? Okay, so we have one on the most complex case. Ooh, I mean, they're all kind of can be complicated in their own way. Um, I think so many different people. Honestly, I don't think there's, I think for me, the most complicated thing is when people are so stressed in their life and they have like, like a family and like really stressed at work and all of these things. I find that the most difficult to support these kind of clients. Because it's not just so much about, the gut is also, it's going to work over time. But if someone's always in fight or flight, if someone's always like on the go and they're like just like constantly stressed and not sleeping enough, it's going to be really hard to get that shift in their skin. And it generally takes longer and it generally takes a lot of like, okay, I need you to just like slow things down a bit, maybe reconsider some things in your life. Helping clients make those life changes can be a little tricky. So I think supporting the nervous system as best as you can naturopathically with I found with this client in particular, like once I started using some herbs for the nervous system, the skin finally started to shift. So the nervous system is definitely an element that if the gut work is like not really shifting the client, then we're gonna have to go in and go in that side. But it can be a little complicated if the life is set up that way to change it. What are your thoughts on aloe vera? Yeah, so it can be really nice for the skin topically as well. It's slightly acidic, so it can support acne. You can sometimes I will put it on my skin topically as well. It's this great like water component that is naturally protective of the skin barrier. So yeah, you can put aloe on, and then you can also then use like an oil, like just a simple oil, like pomegranate oil, and then that's gonna have both the water and the oil component that will support the skin barrier. What are your thoughts on vitamin B5? Some people find high doses help acne. Yeah, so I generally like to prescribe these in a complex rather than just a specific one on its own, because that's the way that the body will naturally absorb it with all the different cofactors. So I like complexes like Magtor, Excel to cover all the bases rather than just going in with one. But I have heard that, there's these kind of cases you hear of when people just take B5 and their skin clears. But I I try and do things more holistically rather than just one nutrient. Coconut oil. So coconut oil is will clog the skin. So when I look at acne client skincare, really important to make sure there's no coconut oil if they're acne prone. So yeah, it's not a good one for the body. It can be a little drying actually as well, even for the body. But yeah, definitely for acne, it's a no. Jojoba oil's nice, grapeseed oil, even almond oil. Um, Rosehip oil is lovely because it's going to also help with any pigmentation too. Yeah. Yeah, so acne scarring can be complicated. There's different types of scarring too. So we have the hyperpigmentation that can occur, as you saw in the photo, like lots of red. Um, so that's important to continue. Actually, the protocol of an anti-inflammatory lifestyle, food, fish oil, these kind of things. Antioxidants can be really good too, like an antioxidant supplement. And topically, so yeah, like the rosehip oil, retinol palmitate. So it's not as strong as like a pure retinoid, but it's like it converts in the skin, so it's more gentle on the skin. And also I really like LED light therapy, so the red light. I use that before, like in between the lots of pigmentation and then the clear skin. So that's really good for removing those red marks in a topical aspect too. So you need to still address internal and external when you're treating the scarring. And then there's also, if you have the deeper scarring, which I still experience a little bit of, the pot scarring, the micro needling can be good, skin needling. You want to make sure it's with like a good clinic as well. We want to make sure that there's no infection that can happen there, and they have good standards. But that can be good. Generally, I think it's like every 6 weeks, the skin needling, and that helps boost the collagen production. And also, if you then do skin needling, you can support internally with things that boost collagen production. You're making sure there's vitamin C, antioxidants, collagen in the food, and potentially in supplements too. So yeah, scarring is, that like final step that I do with my clients to support the full resolution of acne. No worries. All right. Thank you everyone so much for joining. And if you have any questions, you can always find me at Zoe Rosa Wellness. Do you treat the same way for treating PCOS causing acne? So I still good to treat the gut. It's still, most acne clients will have some sort of inflammation coming from there. But PCOS, it can be good to really hone in on the hormones and blood sugar. So I see, yeah, with a lot of PCOS clients, especially with like high androgens, um, or like the hair growth, really, inositol, we want to support the blood sugar. Diet is massive as well. It obviously depends on the type of PCOS they have too. I always make sure I know which type they have through questionnaire and looking at their labs. But I would say blood sugar is the biggest thing that I work on with these clients that have more of the hormonal acne, to support to stop the androgens from driving the oil production and the sebum production in the skin, and supporting their diet as well with the right nutrients for hormonal acne. Is bone broth good for collagen production? Yeah, so bone broth, I mean, I've seen different studies on this. Like some people say it doesn't work, and then other people say it does. So it's kind of that thing with nutrition, there's always a debate. But collagen powder, there is more evidence coming out that it can help with collagen in the skin. So I think the bone broth is nice because it can heal the gut lining. It's got that glutamine in it. So, and help with like the immune system of the gut. So it definitely can be a great addition to someone's like food intake. But also just making sure they're getting enough amino acids in their diet, different diversity of plants and proteins to support the collagen production, as well as vitamin C. Yeah, and trying not to damage the collagen production too much, like UV rays and stress. Is candida still seen as a major possible cause of acne and anti-candida? Yeah, so I can see generally in the gut test if the client has like systemic candida, which I actually don't see too often. I've actually seen it in male clients sometimes. Um, so yeah, it definitely is still a possibility, and this is why I just work on blood sugar regardless. And most people have poor blood sugar. But in the case if there is like a real candida happening and they have histories of like yeast infections and all of this, or if it's coming up in the gut test, then definitely working on those like Porta Arco herbs and anti-candida diet can be useful. But yeah, it's always individualized.
How would you support someone on a
Well, how would you support someone on a biologic for treatment
of psoriasis when they have?
I don't work with psoriasis really, so I'm not going to be able to help you on that one. Yeah, psoriasis is a whole nother type of condition, and it's also quite complex too. Um, I don't understand what you mean when you say biologic for treatment. Like in the case if they have psoriasis, it would be important to treat that first. If yeah, it's hard to say like I treat clients, like I don't necessarily would say I would treat like this specific condition. Like I'd need to see the whole thing, the gut test. If they have psoriasis, it could likely be in the gut happening as well. So definitely recommend that. Also checking for H. pylori in the stomach too. Yeah. Do you not recommend anything? I also am not really like my focus is on acne clients, so eczema is not really something that I do. But yeah, I would speak to someone that knows topical treatment for eczema for that question. But generally, eczema also needs acidic pH and supporting the skin barrier too. Alrighty, well, it's been amazing answering everyone's questions. And yeah, if you want to reach out, let me know. And I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your night. Anything you wanted to say, Annie, or are you happy for me to wrap up?
No, thanks. Thanks so much, Zoe. It was amazing. Really appreciate it. See everyone again very soon. Bye.
Thank you, Annie. Bye.